Unless you live in a city where public transportation will take you anywhere that you want to go, or you have a coworker that you're constantly bothering for rides to work, you're probably going to need a car at some point. In fact, 93% of American households in 2019 had at least one vehicle. And while ride-sharing platforms like Uber and Lyft are bringing this number down every single year, it seems like the vast majority of people still prefer their own car. Hey, and I get it. Buying my first car was one of the happiest moments of my life. And I still love to drive. If you couldn't tell by the fact that I have an entire YouTube channel dedicated, well, to driving. But for anyone who's never bought a car before, the whole financing process can be pretty confusing. And I'm just gonna get this out of the way right now. Cash is no longer king. Credit is now king. And unless you're a real high roller, you probably aren't buying a car with cash. And even if you are a high roller, you shouldn't be buying it with cash. Because in this video, I'm gonna explain everything that you need to know before financing a car. And so not only are you gonna be more confident, but you're gonna get the best rates possible. And you'll also avoid getting scammed. And if you're new here, my name is Brad Danger, the Financial Cowboy. This is Ideal Money, and I'm going to go through step by step how I approach financing cars to get the best rates and be confident doing it. Are you ready? Well, I am. Let's go. As with any kind of financing you're ever going to get, the first thing that you should know before negotiating your financing agreement is your credit score. All right, so first and foremost, if you've never had a credit card, you don't have any credit history, well, you definitely are not gonna get the best deal on auto financing. And that's because the lenders wanna see that you have a good credit score before they issue you a loan. And if you have no credit history, then you don't have a credit score. So I'd suggest going and getting a credit card before you buy a car and give yourself at least 6 months building up some credit history, and make sure you pay off your credit card each month in full. And if you do this, you're gonna get a way more affordable rate on your auto loan. Also, if you do have a credit card, but your credit history isn't all that great, I'd also recommend waiting at least a few months to get your credit score up. Every point counts. Your credit score is typically a number between 300 and 850. Which is accompanied by a rating from very poor to excellent. If your credit score is currently in the rating range from very poor to fair, I'd say you're probably better off waiting to finance that car until your credit score improves some. Now, once you do know your credit score, you can go online to a website like Experian or Bank of America and find out what the average interest rate for people in your credit range is. From there, you can start building out your budget. When we're budgeting for a new vehicle for you, you want to make sure you're easily going to be able to make your monthly payments. And this is where a lot of people get into trouble, because if you aren't careful, car financing can become a real burden and can make it super difficult to cover all your other monthly expenses. So budget out all of those before you go and get a loan. Your rent, your utility bills, any student debts or other debt payments, groceries, gas, everything. Then come up with a realistic estimate of how much you can afford to pay in your car payment each month. And you're gonna wanna set up a pretty lowball estimate, as owning a car can often come with a bunch of unforeseen expenses. Let's say you need to replace the tires, but there's no room in your budget for a set of new tires, then you're gonna have a car that you're paying for that you can't even drive. Yeah, just be realistic. Don't go shopping for a Rolls Royce or a Maserati when your budget only has enough room in it for a Honda Civic. There's really no shame in driving something practical. It's way cooler to be financially responsible in a slightly less cool car than having a baller car and going bankrupt. So make a month-to-month estimate of how much you'll be paying for whatever car you're looking at, and make absolutely sure that you can really afford it. But it gets a little bit more complicated than just that, because figuring out exactly how much you're going to be able to pay each month means that you have to understand some key terminology. Luckily, I'm here to help you out. Not all auto loans are created equal. There are several moving pieces in the auto financing agreements that can affect how much you pay each month and how much you pay over the term of the loan. So let's first start with principal. This is simply the cost of the car that you pay down over time. That 2021 Camry costs 25,000 bucks. So 25,000 bucks is your principal. Easy. The principal gets paid down over what's called a loan term. So let's say that your loan term is 5 years or 60 months. You're gonna pay that 25K principal down with your monthly payments over those 60 months. However, Most auto loans have a down payment, just like you'd make on a house, which means you'll have to put down a lump sum on the car before you get to drive it off the lot. Now, I'd suggest, as a rule of thumb, you make at least a 10% down payment on the car. Well, because if you had to sell it right away for some odd reason, with 10% down plus paying all licensing and titling fees and taxes, you most likely won't be paying money to sell the car to somebody else. Also, the more money that you put down, the amount that you're financing will be less, so your payments will be less per month. And with that, you'll pay less interest over the life of the loan. Interest is a percentage of the principal that you still owe that gets added to your monthly payment. It's basically the cost to borrow money. So the faster that you can pay that principal with a big down payment, or by shortening the loan term, the less you're gonna pay in interest over the life of the loan. So when you're comparing financing options, it's important to look at all of the numbers, not just the monthly payment. While you might be paying less monthly on one loan, you could be paying a whole lot more than you need to over the entire life of the loan. But getting a loan isn't the only option for financing a car. You could also go with a lease. Now, the basic difference between a loan and a lease is that after you've paid off your loan, you own the car and you're free to keep driving it or sell it, or just blow it up if you choose. But with a lease, well, it's a little bit different. You have to return the car to the dealer after the lease expires. When comparing these two financing options, you should definitely factor what you think you could resell the car for if you're getting a loan. You can look up how much similar models depreciated and get a resale estimate from there. And if you're considering leasing, you should also think about how much you're really going to drive the car. Many lease agreements have a certain mileage limit, and if you end up surpassing that limit, you have to pay per mile, and that can add up very quickly. In general, I'd recommend buying your car rather than leasing it. 2-3-year leases will typically cost you thousands of dollars more than just buying a car with a 6-year loan. Plus, when that loan's up, you have an asset that you can resell or keep driving. And those savings continue to go up if your car lasts more than 6 years. Now that you understand how to find out what the best financing option is for you, it's time that we take that knowledge to the dealer and get behind the wheel of that dream car. Now, hold on. Before you go to the dealer, you should definitely shop around for financing. Yes, the dealer will offer you financing agreement when you go in to buy your car. And sometimes it is a pretty good deal. But first, you want to explore all of the options. Go to online lenders like LendingTree or Cars Direct. Go to national banks like Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Even go to your credit union or community bank and see who has the best deal for you. No bank is created equal, and one bank might be a lot more than another, so you just gotta check them all out. Then, when you find a financing agreement that looks to be pretty good, get a letter of pre-approval and bring it to the dealership with you. That way, when you find your dream car and the dealer asks you if you want to finance with them, you can slap down the pre-approval and say, only if you can beat that, and maybe they will, and maybe they won't. But you're gonna get the best deal no matter what. Oh, and last but not least, whatever financing that you do go with, make sure to set up automatic payments with your lender. And now that you have your dream car and your lending agreement, absolute